Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/PettyRevenge. In today's episode, they say you can't put a price on happiness, but it cost me $250,000 and it was worth every penny. Leave me out to dry after I bring your company record profits? Let's see how that plays out for you. Stats teacher grades unfairly. We prove it. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. They say you can't put a price on happiness, but it cost me $250,000 and it was worth every penny. My late husband was in a car accident his senior year in 1986 and got a settlement of $30,000 he could access at 18. He was a gearhead and wanted to buy a Corvette, but his mom didn't like that idea, so she made him a deal. If he bought the car, he would have to pay rent and storage for his other cars, or he could buy property and stay home rent-free as long as he wanted. So at 18 we started looking at property and he bought 10 acres for $5,000. We intended to build there at some point or sell it later on. In the early years we would have massive raggers, there was no one around to bother, and it was great. Eventually people bought and built on the lots around us, and zoning laws changed to allow one house per acre, so there were several houses, but it was still rural and a few of us had large empty acreage the kids would use to ride their dirt bikes. We didn't care, let them have fun. About 15 years ago another new house went in and it was right on the property line. They hadn't even finished construction on the house when the wife began calling to demand I take some trees down because they blocked her view. The funny thing was the view they blocked was from the RV they were living in. Once they moved into the house they wouldn't even be near those trees, so I said sorry but no, I'm not cutting the trees. She wasn't happy, and over the next couple years she called to complain about all sorts of stupid sh*t and the noise of the kids on dirt bikes. Hell, she even got mad at people riding their horses because they made her dogs bark. One spring day I drive out there and noticed the stream that ran across my property and theirs had been dammed on my and diverted on my land about 50 yards from their property line, which sent it along the dirt road that went down a hill and up the other side, creating a pond where it was blocked and another at the bottom of the road and preventing me from accessing the majority of the property. Now I knew it was their doing because the previous winter she had called to complain my stream was causing her property to flood. First off, it wasn't my stream and her property didn't flood. In wetter months the stream naturally got larger, it flowed downhill and it kept to its banks for decades. Their lot was originally heavily wooded and they had cleared all of the trees, and I could tell they had done a bunch of grading, so if they had water issues that's their doing, not mine. Anyway, I went home and the following weekend we grabbed the small backhoe and a couple friends to unblock the stream. We hadn't even unloaded it before we heard her screaming and the cops showed up. They were unsure if they should stop us because our state is pretty environmentally conscious and there are strict wetland laws. The cops didn't know if we were rerouting the stream or if they had. I completely understand where they are coming from, and I knew this could happen, so not only did I bring pictures to show how the stream had been, but one of our friends was an official at the DOE. He was able to explain the law and that we legally needed to put the stream back. We couldn't do much about the pond, except wait for it to dry out, but we sent the stream back down its original channel. Of course, when it got to their freshly graded land it had no channel to follow, and yeah, it did flood their yard. Unfortunately for them, there happened to be that DEO official who felt it was his duty to issue them a citation for divering and illegally altering the stream. They ended up having to put the stream bed back and revegetate with native plants and shrubs in a 25-foot buffer zone, which took away a portion of their yard, pay us damages, and got a huge fine. As the spring and summer progressed, the kids on dirt bikes discover the pond. By this time it's 8 to 18 inches deep and they are loving riding through it. So instead of just riding though there, they spend hours in that area, much to the annoyance of the neighbor. She calls the police multiple times but the kids would either be gone or say they have permission to be there, so the police call us and we say yup, let them ride. Now we did have concerns about liability if they got hurt, but we liked pissing her off so we took the risk. Not the best idea, and thank God no one ever did that we knew about. A couple years go by, she has learned to text because we ignored her calls when she has something to complain about. I make my annual spring visit and notice there are 23 large cedar and fir trees cut down, 5 have been cut up and a path leads directly to their very full woodshed. I was pissed. This isn't something I can just fix and you don't mess with my trees. I called the police and their excuse was that firewood was their sole source of heat and they needed the wood. They cut so many so it would dry out over the next couple years. They get another no trespassing order, the stream one had expired, and charged with theft and vandalism. It took a couple years but they ended up having paid $10,000 for each tree they cut down, so that was nice, plus we sold 15 of the trees and made another $45,000. They were pissed to say the least. Life goes on and we still got texts every time she heard a dirt bike, horse goes by or whatever irritated her on any given day. We started having summer campout parties over the next few years and she always called the police or fire department. Of course we never got cited because we are not stupid and didn't break any laws. Sadly my husband died suddenly and eventually I decided it was time to sell because I wasn't going to build a house there, so I listed the property for $1 million, which was the market rate at the time. Remember, it was 10 acres and you can build one house per acre. Of course any time people went out there she would flag them down and tell them it flooded and all sorts of nonsense. She didn't want anyone to build or be there. I should have renewed the second trespass order but it expired right around the time my husband passed and it just wasn't important at that moment. Developers were not bothered and we did get a few offers under ask I was happy with, but I really wanted to sell it to an individual who wanted to build a single home, just being stupid and sentimental. My agent wasn't happy but understood, lol. One day he calls me with an offer that is much less than any of the others and they wanted to do an owner-carried contract for 3 years with a balloon payment to pay me off at the end of the 3 years. It's a couple who wanted to meet me out there. I didn't have anything going on the upcoming Saturday, so I said I would meet them with the understanding that I really wasn't interested in carrying the contract and the price was too low. We figured they were hoping to change my mind. We were hoping they would come in with a better offer, lol. They got there before me and when I arrived she is there telling them how bad the property is. I parked on the main road and was walking in so none of them even knew I was there. As I approached, 2 little kids come flying up on dirt bikes. She comes unglued, grabbed a rock and threw at them, came nowhere close to hitting them. The guy immediately starts yelling at her and tells her get out of there. It scares her and she left. He sees me and begins to apologize, but I stopped that and thanked him. We start talking and he explained part of the reason they wanted this specific property was because they had 2 young boys who rode motocross and he loved the trails, plus he wanted to build a track for them. When he showed me where, I knew he was my buyer. I took a $250,000 loss on the sale and carried that contract just to spite her. While that is a huge sum, remember we paid $5,000 for it and got almost $300,000 for the trees and another $20,000 for the nonsense with the stream, plus enjoyed the property for almost 30 years and I got the interest on the contract and the balloon payment, so it wasn't like we really lost out. Plus knowing she was going to be miserable for years to come, you just can't put a price on that. I sold it 6 years ago and I still go out a couple times a year just to check it out. They have built a beautiful house at the farthest point from her and there is a huge track up by her place. She still sends me nasty texts and I should probably block her, but it makes me smile each time knowing she is still pissed. Well worth the loss, and I know my late husband would approve. He always knew I was a petty bitch. Leave me out to dry after I bring your company record profits? Let's see how that plays out for you. Back story. Circa 2017, I worked at a small, 36-room condo hotel on Marco Island, Florida, and that property was owned by a small venture capitalist firm ran by two wealthy siblings and one of their sons. I was brought on board by a colleague who was hired as the general manager. Since this was a new/small operation that had pretty much zero actual industry knowledge or expertise, it was basically the GM and myself who were responsible for bringing real changes to the property while also wearing multiple hats and doing the job of several roles with our industry experience. There was only one other office employee who was a curmudgeonly old lady, ironically her name was actually Karen LOL, who basically just did the billing for unit owners and sat in the back when she could. I myself was responsible for, not only the day-to-day front desk presence, phone presence, concierge presence, assigning daily housekeeping duties, and running a brief night audit, but most importantly also managing the business revenue strategy/competitive set, and online room inventory with our own website and major OTA companies like Expedia/Booking/Trivago/etc. 2017 was a record year for us and my revenue strategy earned the company several tens of thousands of dollars more than previous years by comparison. Then *T starts slowly hitting the fan Q2, Q3. My colleague, the GM, resigned due to personal issues completely unrelated to his work performance. That brought the office staff down to 2 people, Karen and I. Karen had had this month-long trip to Italy planned like 2 years in advance, so she was going to go regardless. Karen flies out in the midst of the news that there's a bad hurricane a few days out from landfall. Cue Hurricane Irma. For those unaware of hurricane grading, Irma made landfall in the US as a Category 4. That is staggeringly powerful. For reference, Katrina, which devastated New Orleans in 2005, was also a Cat 4. Needless to say, everyone was on high alert and made plans to evacuate. During my evacuation, not on the clock or being paid by the company whatsoever, the firm's accountant called me on my personal phone asking me to walk her through the steps of how to remotely run the property management systems audit. With hotel computer systems, the day doesn't actually end until you tell the system that the day is over, and that it's time to run reports/tally up the numbers, so if no one is there to do the audit, the hotel will permanently be stuck on a previous day. I spend about 2 hours on the phone with her while evacuating from a natural disaster, and I was never compensated for it. Irma ended up making landfall on the island I worked on, and the entire surrounding area lost power for about a week. We all returned to devastation, some of our rooms on the top floor having their walls and roof blown out, and slowly trying to pick the pieces back up. My hours were cut from 40 per week to about 16 per week as the damage from the hurricane drove business way down. I was beginning to struggle financially, and I was forced to use all my PTO and vacation days I had earned up to this point to keep full paychecks coming in, as I was just some single 24 to 25-year-old guy who lived alone, and the company offered absolutely zero roadmap for getting back to full-time compensation. I sent the CEO, who I spoke with every week in revenue meetings, an email explaining the situation and asking for a possible advance to make ends meet for the time being. The email I got back was basically one sentence to the effect of, "OP, will be open again soon, thanks." Bold strategy, let's see how that plays out for you considering I'm the literal only person running the hotel operations right now. Within a week, I secured an interview for a better paying job closer to home, crushed the interview, and kept it completely to myself. The CEO's brother, the CFO, had flown down to be on property for the first day of the reopening where business started to come back to normal. The day before the reopening, while in the office, I got a call from HR at the new company confirming the job offer, and to stop by later that day to finalize everything. I called the CFO and asked him to come down to the office because I wanted to talk. The second he got there and he asked what's up, I told him I was resigning effective immediately. Him, OP, you realize that'll make it hard for us to open tomorrow, right? Me, nothing personal. Just like your company has financial concerns that prevent you from keeping your only employee here to run the hotel, I also have financial concerns that prevent me from staying here as I have bills to pay. You'll be open again soon, don't worry. He gritted his teeth and said, okay then. I handed over my key to the property, got in my car, and never looked back. Stats teacher grades unfairly. We prove it. A teacher of mine in high school was very proud of her newly acquired master's degree, not sure why because several of the teachers had them. She showed up that year with a new grading style that basically made it so that no one could get an A unless they went above and beyond in unexpected ways. She said that's how college does it, and that's how all of the schools will do it soon. I had made it into an advanced stats class of hers along with only 3 other underclassmen. She warned us on the first day that the class wasn't intended for anyone under 12th grade and it would be the hardest thing we've ever done. A few weeks passed and we quickly realized that her complicated grading style was just an excuse to be completely subjective and give her least favorite students bad grades. She would tell us, there's a lot more to your grade than your grade. This allowed her to lower our grades simply because she didn't think we grasped the concepts. We were all doing well on tests and assignments, but our grades kept dropping. For our midterm assignment we were supposed to do a statistical analysis of something of our choosing. We decided to measure and calculate whether or not soda companies rip you off by the amount of liquid that they put in your cans. They don't. We had tons of extra time so we put together a second project in secret, to prove statically that her assignments were graded mathematically unfair. So after more work than any of us have ever put toward an assignment, and plenty of volunteers willing to offer up their grades to compare, we checked and double-checked our results. I don't remember the exact numbers but essentially we were able to prove that our grades were outliers and the data had somewhere around a 96% chance of being biased. We were sent to the principal's office for insubordination, but he was a pretty decent dude. After explaining everything, and hearing both sides, he essentially told the teacher that if extra work is needed to earn an A, she can't be mad when we want to do extra relevant work. We definitely had a sense of invincibility until the end of the semester. We quickly realized she wouldn't push her luck trying to shortchange our grades again. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share and we will see you in the next video.